Welcome to the Riverlands, where people fight for reasons long forgotten. And now one side is for the blacks, the other is for the greens. Either way, a sword needs a scabbard, and that scabbard is this young boy's neck. And so the cycle of violence continues in this episode, as it will in all episodes. Bernice has to remind Rhaenyra here that these wars, it's hard to pinpoint a beginning. What started it? Was it the death of Luke, the death of a baby, the poking out of Aemon's eye? Sometimes it doesn't matter. Men in armor or those wearing crowns will find any reason to wage war when it suits them, right? And that is one of the key themes of this show, if you haven't figured it out already. This episode in particular, though, is about Rhaenyra wanting to put an end to this war. Maybe she can find a more diplomatic way to end the bloodshed. And this is not that kind of world. Kristen Cole's the hand now. Jeez Louise. We get a bunch of cool little meetings here about what to do next. Everyone's confused. No one can agree to things. So check it out. Mysaria is now part of Rhaenyra's council. And I like this development. I think Mysaria is a cool character. She seems to be attuned with a lot of things. Not just the spying and the hearsay. He's attuned to the dragon cries. Can sense that this dragon's lonely out in the distance. That's interesting. So does anyone feel like Rhaenyra is a bit underdeveloped this season so far? She's an underdog we're all rooting for and all. I feel like she's a little bit one note, and maybe that's going to change after what happens at the end of this episode. And can you believe it? They actually put a commercial in this episode. Here we have the trailer for Dark Souls 4. I think it's coming out on the PS6. Looks pretty good, but then again, everything looks good when it's wet. It just reflects the light better. It's sparkly. It's nice. I like it. The HBO bookkeepers are probably happy with this episode. They didn't even show a battle sequence in the opening. It just cut to the kids with the sword in its neck, and now we have an empty castle. Daemon doesn't have to fight any guards or anything except that one guy. Easy peasy. They just spent a lot of water though. That's all they did. But it's a fun scene. I like this guy, Tully. He's pragmatic. He's gonna bow down because he knows, there's no point of fighting back against this one dude with a sword and a dragon. He has a dragon. Remember that? Let's remember that he has a big old dragon, and that's what Daemon is all about. He feels like he can just take his dragon wherever he wants and win everybody over. But it's a lot more complicated than that. Some of these houses are harder to persuade. And there's older leaders of these houses who, can't hold their shit together, literally. Okay, cool. So Alicent enlists her brother to join Kristen Cole on the field, which is good because he needs someone to put him in check a little bit. It's Team Black's turn to have their council meeting talk about what to do in this war. All the men are let's use these nuclear dragons, and Rhaenyra is nah, we gotta use them as a deterrent. We gotta, just the threat of the dragon is enough, but we don't gotta use them. They want to get on with this war without Rhaenyra at the head. They just want to do it themselves. And of course, she reminds them that, nah, that's treasonous. And then Rhaenys reminds them that Rhaenyra wears the crown of her grandsire, one of the most peaceful of rulers, and one who kept their crown for the longest, I think, in all of Targaryen. Of all the Targaryen kings, of all the Targaryen kings, she's pretty much Rhaenyra's hand at this point. She's been officially assigned to be her hand. I feel like she should be, if she hasn't already. But damn, all these boys are holding in their farts or something. So we get a little bit more of that battle of the sexes. I feel like they're pigeonholing her character as just the queen who's not respected. I feel like she lost her rebellious spirit from when she was young, But maybe the writers were just holding her back a bit for the next half of this season. I don't know, but it feels like they're lingering in this docile moment a little too long. We get another cute scene between Rhaenys and Corlys, couple most likely to succeed and or die. Okay, we get a little bit more beats for Rhaena and Baela. That's good to see. Oh, one thing I wanted to correct from last episode is that I forgot that Baela and Jace are betrothed. I was shipping them together and then I forgot they were already shipped. And yes, they are related. Anyway, they're sending the little ones off to somewhere else. Baela's upset that like, hey, why do I gotta go? It's because I don't have a dragon. So maybe now that, you know, the little kids are gonna go, Rhaenyra's gonna be able to be more active and have more agency in the upcoming war now, right? I think that's the thing here. Larys is this guy's name. I always forget his name. His name is Larys. He's the Master of Whispers now. He's up to no good. This guy apparently is a bastard son of some Targaryen king. I don't know if that's true or not. You know, but it's Aegon's time to party again. He's got to party with his boys. That's why maybe his son got chopped, because he wasn't home to protect him. He was out here partying and the guards were with him. I don't know. There's a lot of reasons why the little boy died. Is this the first time we see a blowjob on screen in HBO? I think so. Although that penis did look like a prosthetic. It looked like dildo-like. Obviously they wouldn't, you know, do the real thing here. But it did feel a little bit off, you know. If they're gonna go for it all the way, I say. Aegon here making fun of his brother for sleeping with the same woman he lost his virginity to. He's a broke king. He's got to make fun of his brother for having a soft side. And upon reflection, I guess it is nice that they have these scenes with Aemon in the brothel to show that he has this different side to him. He's not just this, you know, super villain with an eye patch. In this scene in particular, I think, is when he like kind of realizes maybe that like, oh, like, I don't care what people think anymore. Like, fuck you, brother. When he was younger, this teasing would have hurt him more. But now I think he's just like, whatever. Like, he doesn't care to be seen without clothes at all. And so maybe this scene is meant to show how nothing really can faze him anymore. And he's ascended to this higher form or something. Also, I think HBO is trying to balance the scales a little bit with the male nudity versus female nudity. That, you know. Anyways, Rhaenyra is missing her children as usual these days. Is this a little note from her father? I do not remember where this little message is from. Someone tell me in the comments, please. Thank you. Okay, alright, for this scene, make sure you get an 8K display so you can see all the detail here, especially when we get to the sky here with the dragon. So right here, for example, if you look real close, you can see Kristen Cole and Alicent's brother on horseback. There's a little bit of a glint of shininess. There, you see, there, that's the little, that's a little reflection from the sun. You can see that they're there. All right, yeah, but I recommend zooming in because it's hard to tell. But you know, Rhaena scares them off into the woods and stuff. And just a little bit of tease of some dragon fighting. We're not gonna get there yet. I'm sure maybe the last few episodes will get more dragon fights. Probably maybe even the very last episode, maybe even the very last scene of the season will get more dragon fights. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Just a little tease. But this duo, they're gonna become great friends, and I think they might end up kissing, and that will introduce a whole new love triangle situation. So Rhaena seems like she's gonna be an important figure in this war of the dragons. We're getting ready, we're prepping up. She made an executive decision to fly in too close, and that may backfire, but also it provided some good intel. She's a bit of a maverick. I think Rhaenyra here can't quite say, but I think she appreciates Baela's boldness. Probably reminds her a little bit of herself when she was young. You know, back when she was doing fun stuff. When are we going to see her do some more fun stuff? Okay, so now we're at my favorite scene of the episode. You know, I love those dream sequences, and here's a dream sequence. Speaking of Rhaenyra, when she was young, here she is, Emilia Alcock making an appearance as young Rhaenyra, sewing the head of the little baby boy onto his body. So obviously Damon has some regret and feels his guilt for leading to the death of this boy here. That's manifesting in his dream / vision, whatever's going on here. And we see young Rhaenyra cleaning up his mess, which I think indicates that he still sees Rhaenyra as a kid. You know, doesn't have that full respect for her. But you know, then he goes to the courtyard where he finds this creepy woman who tells him he's gonna die here. She showed up earlier when he first entered the castle and met the Tully guy, but she's just someone to keep an eye out for. Might be more witchy stuff upcoming here. Again, we get another commercial for Elden Ring here. But this whole sequence is interesting because we know Damon is very much against this whole like prophecy, dreaming nonsense. He hated his brother for being so attached to the prophecy mumbo jumbo. He's all about taking action with his dragons or with his swords, you know, and is very much like anti-magic, anti all the woo-woo stuff. So is this experience here gonna change him? Is he gonna like start paying more attention to the mystical? Feels like a lot of characters are changing this season. Speaking of witchy vibes, Mysaria here is putting her skills to good use. She's helping out Rhaenyra get in touch with Alicent. Rhaenyra is gonna go on a sneaking mission. That's right, 3 sneaking missions in a row at the end of each episode of the season so far. Is this going to be a reoccurring thing? You know, are they going to figure out how to make it interesting each time? Is it going to get stale, or is this the last one? I don't know. We'll see. But I actually think this is a really good scene here. And unlike the other sneaky missions, this one doesn't end in violence. It actually ends in a revelatory moment for these two characters. They're finally meeting face to face for the first time since the war began. But the major thing here is that Alicent tells Rhaenyra about what her father's last words were to her. Basically the thing that started this whole thing, right? Alicent heard Viserys in his deathbed say that Aegon was the prince that was promised, and assumed that he meant that Aegon should be the new king. And hearing this for a moment, Rhaenyra actually believes that, oh, maybe she was wrong. Maybe Viserys did change his mind. But then Alicent actually says the exact wording Viserys used, and that puts everything into focus. Because obviously Viserys was reciting the Song of Ice and Fire, the prophecy. But Alicent didn't know that. Viserys was talking about Aegon the Conqueror, not Aegon her son. And that rocks Alicent's world for a second. Oops, but it's too late, she says. You can't put the dragon back in its box. Even if she was to tell the council this, they wouldn't care for it. Too much blood has been spilled. Criston Cole was already out on the field. And that's the tragedy of it. Again, tying to the beginning of this episode, the idea that it doesn't really matter who started the war, why the war started, and people are going to find a reason here or there to continue the war. And now that they're in the middle of it, they just have to be pragmatic and have to figure out what's the best way to proceed. And yeah, it's a sad moment. And now Rhaenyra realizes that she can't forestall the war. The only way forward is through violence. And that's House of the Dragon for you. Those dragons have to dance. It's inevitable. A fine episode indeed. I want to see more magical dream scenes. Let's get into Helena's head. Yeah, let's just do a whole episode inside Helena's head. HBO wouldn't do that though, unfortunately. Frickin' cowards. Well, I'll see you next time. Under the moonlight. Bye bye.